Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, NFL beat writer, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
I am doing great. And today, we're going to go a little bit different in the state of the franchise. We're going to predict one future first-time Pro Bowler for each AFC team, Sam. So let's go ahead. Let's start off with the Baltimore Ravens. Who's the guy you like here?
In the Ravens, it's a little bit difficult to pick with them because they have a lot of veterans on their roster. A lot of their guys are already Pro Bowlers at this point. But I think the guy who I'm looking forward to is Patrick Queen, who they're going to have playing in the interior, basically replacing C.J. Mosley, who left last year. So they're getting a guy back in the middle. They've had a pretty strong history there. It's Ray Lewis, then C.J. Mosley. Now it's going to be Patrick Queen. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowler as a rookie, but I anticipate he's the guy moving forward.
Yeah, Patrick Queen's the guy I like also. I think he's going to be the next great defensive player from LSU, and I think that I would go a step farther. I think Queen could be the pick for the Defensive Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, I think the Defensive Rookie of the Year class is actually pretty open this year. I think there's a bunch of guys who are out there who could really get it. I think Patrick Queen is certainly one of them. I'm kind of back and forth between him and Kenneth Murray. They were my number one and number two. Well, besides Isaiah Simmons, they were my number 1 and 2 linebackers left on the board. So I'm kind of interested to see how they both play out because I expect both of them to be pretty good. I'm just curious which one's going to be better.
Yeah, and I like Queen just because of the defense he's going to be playing on, because I think that defense is going to make conducive to him having a big season. I think the Ravens will probably have a big season and win the AFC North, so that's why I go with Queen. Then we move on to the Buffalo Bills, and I think when you look at this, I think to me, it's hands down is Stephon Diggs. I mean, there was a lot of really good wideouts in the NFC, which kept Diggs from being a Pro Bowler. And, of course, Bills fans hope that will change. The big question to me is how he meshes with an erratic quarterback in Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen's one of the worst deep ball passers in the league. And now one of the theories out there is that giving him Stephon Diggs will actually help improve his deep ball accuracy, because Diggs is a guy who averaged 17.9 yards per reception last year, so a very good deep ball receiver. Personally, I'm just not buying into it. I don't think Josh Allen is a good deep ball passer. I think he's wildly inaccurate. Yeah, I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got one of the strongest arms in the league, but he just doesn't know how to use it. So, to me, I think Diggs is a guy who will probably be one of the best players on that offense. I just question if he's going to be a Pro Bowler or not, because I'm not buying into his quarterback and his supporting cast right now.
Yeah, and who do you have for the Bills?
Well, I had Diggs obviously as my number 1, but if you're going to go Diggs, I would take a look at Devin Singletary or Ed Oliver. One of those two guys to me is likely to come out and have at least a big season here. I like what Devin Singletary did last year when they had Frank Gore running alongside him. He's a very efficient back, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. I don't know if he'll be able to do that on 240 carries, but, I mean, there's an opportunity there. I think he's definitely one of the more efficient running backs in the league last year than Ed Oliver on the other side, just because he had so much potential coming out of college, some off-the-field issues, some concerns about his maturity, and he kind of underwhelmed last year. I'm interested to see if he'll take a step forward in his second season.
Yeah, and then we come, of course, to probably the most important team we're going to talk about today, the Cincinnati Bengals. Who do you like here?
I mean, I think you're going to go Joe Burrow, so I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction here. I'm going to say Joe Mixon, just because Joe Mixon was one of the most underrated running backs in the league last year, in my opinion. He hasn't made a Pro Bowl yet, which is kind of surprising to me because he's been a really consistent back the last 2 years. I mean, if we cut out maybe like first 5 or 6 weeks of this past season, he was arguably a top 5 running back in the league. So, to me, I'm surprised Joe Mixon isn't a Pro Bowler yet, and I think he should be a Pro Bowler here in the coming seasons.
Well, I think the reason he hasn't been a Pro Bowler so far is the lack of offense with the Bengals, from throwing the ball to being able to block for him. Last year, sorry about that. I'm important, so people call me, especially when I forget to turn off the phone. But I think last year what we saw was the first half of the season, he was averaging like 2 yards per carry. It got better as the season went on. They kind of changed the blocking scheme. He played really well the second half of the season. I could see Joe Mixon also. I'm going to go Joe Burrow just because you went Mixon, and I think it's a stretch to list a rookie quarterback as a potential Pro Bowler. But I think with T. Higgins, with Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, A.J. Green, I think the offensive line will be improved. I don't think the team's going to be a playoff team, but maybe win 6 or 7 games. But I think offensively they're going to put up big numbers. I think the defense is going to be a huge hindrance to this team. So I think they'll be a team that can score a lot of points, but they're going to give up a lot of points. And I think Joe Burrow will have a big season. I think within the next 3 years, Joe Burrow will definitely be a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm totally agreeing with you on that part. I think you could follow route similar to guys like Andrew Luck, maybe, who weren't immediate. Well, actually, Luck was immediate Pro Bowler, but I don't think they'll. Think this way: guys like Baker Mayfield threw 27 touchdowns or threw a rookie record for touchdowns his rookie season. He didn't make the Pro Bowl, so it's very hard for rookies to come in and make the Pro Bowl immediately. I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback prospect we've seen since Andrew Luck, at the very least, potentially even better than Andrew Luck. So I do expect him to come in and within the first 3 years being an immediate impact player who's playing at a high level.
All right, next up we got the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go with J.C. Tretter here. He's the center in his 7th season in the NFL. And I think it's safe to say if you look at the weapons that Cleveland has offensively and a little bit defensively with Myles Garrett, guys like that, Greedy Williams coming in. Offensively, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I mean, this is a team that if the offensive line plays well, could be a playoff team. On paper, at least, they could be a playoff team. But we know how the Browns have a tendency to just light the match and burn the paper up. But I think Tretter is going to be a big key to whether this team can be successful and possibly make the playoffs this year, Sam.
Yeah, the offensive line is going to be huge for Cleveland moving forward. I'm going to stick on the offense as well. And I'm going to go Baker Mayfield because Baker didn't make it to the Pro Bowl during that rookie season. Obviously played very poorly last year. I think really what the season comes down to is if Baker Mayfield plays like he did as a rookie, they'll probably make the playoffs because we have 7 teams getting in per conference now. So if he plays and puts up his rookie-level numbers, they'll probably make the playoffs. If he plays like he did last season, they're going to win 5 or 6 games again. So to me, I think this season hinges on Baker Mayfield and his performance. And like I said, if they have all those weapons around him, all those Pro Bowlers, all those All-Pros, and they can't put it together, and when is it ever going to happen? It just won't. So to me, I think this is a big year for Baker Mayfield. He's either going to be a Pro Bowler or he's going to be a bust. And this year's just going to be a loss for Cleveland.
All right, I think the Denver Broncos, I think we could probably both agree on this. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going Bradley Chubb here.
Yeah, I think so too. Bradley Chubb's the guy right now. He's coming off a year that was shortened because of injuries. He missed most last season, but as a rookie, I mean, he was a dominant force. He had 12 sacks rookie season, 60 tackles, 21 quarterback hits. I think Von Miller suffered a little bit last year without Bradley Chubb. He had basically a career low in sacks with the exception of that 1 year where he faced a suspension. So getting Bradley Chubb back will really help that overall defense. He'll help Von Miller out. It'll probably help Jarrell Casey out in the middle. So I think that's going to be the guy. The one other person I would look at on Denver is safety Justin Simmons. He was a second-team All-Pro this year. So he had a huge jump, too, in his game between the 2018 season and 2019 season, really stepped it up. So I don't know if he'll be consistent or not, but he was a second-team All-Pro, and that's a guy who could also make his Pro Bowl this coming season.
Yeah, and I think Chubb, to me, is the runaway. If he's healthy all year, I mean, he forms one of the AFC's most dangerous pass rushing duos with Von Miller. Also, one of the stats you left out there from his rookie season was a rookie leading 58 total pressures. If him and Von Miller both stay healthy, the Denver Broncos defense could be really scary. Let's move on. Let's look at the Houston Texans, Sam.
Yeah, the Texans, I've got 2 guys, and it's not a very strong team in terms of who I think the first Cold War could be unless I'm overlooking someone. But the guy I have set up right now is Justin Reed at safety. And that's not necessarily because I'm in love with Reed, not necessarily because I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl player, but I'm looking around at the other pieces. And one of the only other guys who look at who could be a first-time Pro Bowler really that I think could realistically happen would be Brandon Cooks if he stayed healthy. But even then, it's not a huge probability. So I'm going with Justin Reed. I think he has outperformed his 3rd-round pick that he was back in 2018. He's outperformed his draft pedigree already. 5 interceptions the first 2 seasons, 166 tackles. He does a little bit of everything for them. I think he's been really helpful at keeping that secondary held together when they've really just had patchwork of guys going in and out.
All right, I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. I mean, 4 consecutive 1,000-yard campaigns, 29 touchdowns from 2015 through 2018. Didn't get him in the Pro Bowl, but I think he's playing for his 4th team in 5 seasons. I think that, in a post-DeAndre Hopkins vacuum, I think Cooks should lead the way ahead of 29-year-old Randall Cobb and Will Fuller, who has injury issues. And I think Brandon Cooks is set up to have a genuine bounce back year here. And as we always say, the big word here is if. Let's go with the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to go, I always tout the Colts offensive line. I'm going to go Braden Smith, who's a right tackle in his third AFC season, or in his third NFL season. I think that the AFC's best front five resides in Indianapolis. And you got a guy like Quentin Nelson. And I think Braden Smith is a guy here who finished 2019 as Pro Football Focus's sixth-ranked run blocker. His pass protection, I think, could use a little bit of a boost. He's 6'6", 315. I think he's going to have a big season here for the Colts, and I think he could very well be a Pro Bowler, Sam.
Yeah, this was a guy who was taken in the second round back in 2018, but really, if you were to redraft it, he'd easily be a first-round pick in my mind. This is a very dominant player. I know Orlando Brown with the Baltimore Ravens made the Pro Bowl last year. I think Braden Smith, honestly, is basically on the same level, so I think you could have him getting in and going with the Pro Bowl. He'd be the guy I would choose as well. But since you went with him, I would say, why don't you look over at left tackle Anthony Costanzo? I know he hasn't made a Pro Bowl in the past. He's been there for a long time. He's kind of like what Nate Solder was to the Patriots a couple of years ago, just a very consistent starter. Maybe not a Pro Bowler per se, but a guy who's been performing at a high level for a long time.
I think he's the weakness on the line.
Yeah, at this point?
Yeah, I think he's the weakest link. I don't think he's a bad player, but I think Pro Bowl's a stretch. And when we're going to talk about Pro Bowls being a stretch, now we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many options here. I'm going to have to go with defensive end Josh Allen because that's the only guy who I could potentially see really being a first-time Pro Bowler here as a rookie last year. Oh, wait, no, he made the Pro Bowl last year. All right, well, in that case, I've got no one on Jacksonville at this point. I think the Jaguars don't have a lot of good young pieces I'm really looking forward to. I mean, maybe you get something out of guys like a Leonard Fournette. Maybe he goes out and makes one, but I just don't see it this year with Jacksonville. They don't have the pieces to me that really have a strong core.
I'll give you one guy, and he's a rookie, and that's C.J. Henderson. He's a cornerback, and I know Todd Grantham, who's a very good defensive coach, calls him the best corner he's ever coached. This is a kid that runs a 4.39 40. He does a great job, has a great ability to track down wideouts on the fly. My only concern here is he may not look that great just because the old Saxonville pass rush is pretty much gone. But C.J. Henderson's the only guy I could give you here, and I think that's a push. It's just I like offensive linemen. I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to go Mitchell Schwartz, who's in his 9th season. He's a guy who hasn't missed a single start during his 8-year career. I think he's a guy that is very underrated, and I think he is, a lot of Patrick Mahomes' success. I mean, it's important to have strong tackles. He's a right tackle, not a left tackle, but I think he's a guy you can count on, and I think there's a chance here that maybe he could slip into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, this guy was a first-team All-Pro in 2018. I mean, if he was a left tackle, he'd be one of the most well-known left tackles in the NFL. The only reason people don't know who he is is because he's a right tackle. This is a guy who's been a very consistent force in the NFL. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2016 and 2017, first-team All-Pro 2018, second-team All-Pro 2019. So he's been one of the best offensive linemen in the league the past 4 years. Still hasn't made a Pro Bowl. That's because he's a right tackle. But I think I agree with you. He's one of the most underrated players and most overlooked players in the league. Just to be a little different than you, if I was to pick someone else, I'd probably lean towards Juan Thornhill, who was a rookie at safety last year. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowl player already at this point, but he's a guy who did a lot for them. They really missed him when he got hurt. I think he'll be a future 10-year starter in the league.
All right, next up, the Las Vegas Raiders, Sam.
Yeah, the Raiders are an interesting team, but I think they have two obvious choices here on the offense. And it's either Josh Jacobs or Darren Waller. And I would lean towards Darren Waller because he had over 1,000 yards last year as a tight end. That's something you don't see very often for some guys. And I was surprised he didn't make the Pro Bowl, honestly, but for some reason he didn't. He ended last season with 90 receptions for over 1,100 yards and 3 touchdowns. So this is a guy who I think will make the Pro Bowl moving forward.
All right, I've got a defensive player for the Raiders, and I think it's Jonathan Abram. Because I think by the time he's done within the next couple of years, he's going to be considered one of the best safeties, if not the best safeties in football, Sam. Am I crazy here?
I mean, you're not crazy, but this is a guy who I haven't seen a lot of yet. And I think there's just a lot that could potentially go wrong for him on that side of the ball, especially in the secondary. It's kind of still up in the air. But I do agree. pure potential and talent is absolutely there. That's why they went after him with a high pick to begin with. I just wonder again, like when we see him when he gets out there, when he puts a full season together, what is all going to look like for him moving forward?
All right, next up, the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler, running back in his fourth season, good enough that Melvin Gordon's now in Denver. And I think with Gordon being in Denver, I think that Eckler finally has a shot to explode for a full season. And I really think the sky is the limit for him. And he's kind of a Mr. Everything guy here. And if Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert, either one can have a decent season, it's going to make Eckler look even better. But I think Eckler's a guy that could be a Pro Bowler as the main guy.
Well, certainly put up a lot of yards from scrimmage. My one concern with him is what will the rushing totals look like? Because I know last year he had 92 receptions for 993 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns, but he only had 557 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So for me, my concern is he might not get voted to the Pro Bowl based on the fact that it's going to be a bias for guys who put up big rushing totals. Now, obviously, if you look at his yards in general, he probably had a better season than Josh Jacobs last year. But people won't look at it that way because he didn't have the huge rushing totals. So for me, I'm a little concerned in that regard. I don't think he'll make the Pro Bowl because of that. Now, is that biased? Yeah, I don't think it's right if he has such a great season. I think Hunter Henry honestly has probably a higher chance to get in just because of how the league likes to view certain players. So I think Henry has a higher chance, but again, there's always the injuries with him. So I'm not really sure if he's going to get it or not.
All right, Sam, the Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins are an interesting one, but I think the clear choice for me would have to be Devontae Parker at wide receiver. I think his numbers won't be as good as they were last year. Last year, he had 72 receptions for over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. I don't think he'll hit those marks again just because there's going to be a quarterback transition at some point this year, and there's going to be a little bit of time that's going to have to be spent adapting to it. But at the same point, I think this is a guy who showed last year he can be a true number one receiver, and I think he'll continue to prove that in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. My only caveat is how will the quarterbacks play, whoever the quarterback is. Next up, the New England Patriots. I'm going to stick with my offensive lineman. I'm going to go Joe Thuney, who's in his, fifth season in the NFL. He's an offensive guard. I think he's one of the best guards in the game. He plays every snap of every game, and I think this is a guy that is just a matter of time before somebody finally notices and puts him in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one as well because he's played every snap, or he's played every game last 4 years. And if you look at his snap count, he played every snap on the offense for New England in 2016, 2017, 2018. And he played 99% of the snaps this past season. So this is a guy who's been consistent. He's been available. He's been one of the best guards in the league. That's why they franchise tagged him this offseason because they couldn't let him go. He's probably going to get a record contract if they do reach an extension. So I have to agree with you here. I think he is one of the best guards in the league, and he's a future Pro Bowler.
All right, Sam. So you agree with me there? Let's see if we agree on this one. The New York Football Jets.
And this is another difficult one because there's just not – when I look at the Jets, I don't see a ton of guys who are going to make an immediate impact this year. I like Sam Darnold going forward. We've said this in the past plenty of times on the show. I love Sam Darnold going forward. I just don't think the Jets have done enough for him to be a Pro Bowler this coming season. If I had to take a flyer on someone and think, oh, maybe this guy will be the one who ends up doing it, I would lean towards Quentin Williams just because he played 13 games last year, 9 games started. I loved him coming out of college. So I think maybe he could be the guy to make the leap in his second year. But, that's a big if. There's a lot of ifs in that scenario. I don't think there's a clear front runner for the Jets.
All right, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. I know it may sound crazy, but I think once again, you look at this team, they were 7-6, I think, with Darnold as the starter last year. And I think if the offensive line can play just a little bit better, then I think that Darnold has a chance. I think the big key here is Mekhi Becton. My only problem with that is I don't think that he's the coup that a lot of Jets fans think he is. But I think better protection alone could transform Darnold's fortunes. And, you've got Adam Gase, which always scares me too. So the Jets are a team that I think are either going to be a huge bust or a big surprise this year. And if they're a big surprise, I think the main reason for that is Sam Darnold. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is one of the biggest no-brainers in the AFC. I think this goes to Devin Bush. I think Devin Bush is an absolute stud. I mean, he's fast. He can cover in man. He can do pretty much everything there is on a football field, blazing fast. He's got a nose for the ball. He's got a great skill set. And I think come this September, if we're playing football, I think everybody's going to start to realize just how good Devin Bush is and just how many teams really missed a boat when they didn't draft him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think it's a similar case with Patrick Queen, honestly. There are defenses that are set up to help them succeed. And a guy like Devin Bush has already gone out there and proved last season he's got the speed to play at an NFL level. He's got the instincts. I mean, he was all around the football last year. My only concerns with him, or my only criticisms with him after the first year, were that at points in coverage early in the season, he got shook a little bit. I think it wasn't necessarily that he was outran in a scenario, just the case that he needs a little more experience to catch up there. Same thing happened with Ryan Shazier, though, so it's the same kind of transition. My only other concern is that sometimes with tackles, he kind of bounces off guys a little bit. He kind of just throws his shoulder without wrapping up and kind of gets shucked off a little bit. So I think he'll adjust to that. I think this year he'll be better than he was last year, and I expect him to be making a Pro Bowl by the time his rookie contract ends, if not immediately this season.
All right, Sam, the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans are another kind of difficult one because they have a lot of veterans on that team that have already made the Pro Bowl or kind of in their 30s at this point. I think the way it's leaning right now, there's two guys who I consider could do it, and they're both on defense. I think Adoree Jackson, corner, is the guy I'm going to side with here.
Okay. I'm going to go Jeffrey Simons. Is it Simons or Simmons?
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't. He's the other guy I was thinking about, but I think it's Simmons.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's in his second NFL season. And my big thing here is with Jarrell Casey no longer on the team, I think that Simmons becomes the centerpiece of Tennessee's defensive front. He suffered a torn ACL before the 2019 draft, which kept him out of the first part of last season. But I think he showed when he did play that he is a guy that can rush the passer. He can stop the run. Now, I think a lot of the Titans' success here is going to depend on how good a player Simons is, because this is a team that basically plays defense. They want to run the ball. And I still think they're going to be similar to the Jaguars of a couple years ago, going from making the AFC Championship game to kind of falling out of the playoffs. But I think if they don't and they can make a run, Jeffrey Simons to me, or Simmons, is the guy that's going to really help this. So he would be my pick with the Titans.
I know, I agree with you in that case. He was my number 2 option here. And when you get rid of a guy like Jarrell Casey, you must be confident in his backup. And it was really surprising how quickly he returned from that torn ACL this past year. He got back, played 9 games. Didn't look phenomenal, but part of that, again, he's a rookie. He was coming off a significant injury. But going into the draft before the injury, I mean, this was a guy who could have been a top 10 pick, arguably. So I do expect big things from him in the future, and so do the Tennessee Titans.
All right, Sam, are we going tomorrow with our next show, or are we going to go the day after?
Let's wait until Thursday.
All right. So we will be back Thursday at 1 o'clock on the NFL show. We will tweet out the topic here once we figure it out. You want to do this for the NFC Thursday?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So Thursday, we will have predicting one future first-time Pro Bowler from each NFC team. Sam, you want to tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Sam_Teets33. I'm constantly posting new articles there every day, so feel free to go check those out.
All right, make sure you check out the Grueling Truth Facebook page where you can hear this show live every day at 1 o'clock. You also can find us on YouTube live at 1 o'clock every day. You can follow me at the Grueling Truth. And you can go check out all of our articles, all of our shows. We cover most teams in every sport. A lot of boxing coverage also, which you can find on YouTube and on thegruelingtruth.com. You can hear us on over 200 outlets, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.